My name is Kimberly Inez, and I am the Automatic Thought Leader. I help coaches and speakers really demystify technology so that they can attract more people, generate more leads, and close more sales. And I want to ask you a question. Have you ever done anything by accident? And have you accidentally become what you are now? And the question may sound kind of funny. And I wanted to ask this because I was telling a story about how I accidentally became an email marketer. When I did a podcast a couple of days ago, the interviewer asked me, all right, are you doing now what you thought you'd always be doing? And the answer is absolutely not. Like, I did not foresee in any shape or form a world in which I would be a coach, speaker, and a soon to be author, and also an entrepreneur. How crazy is that? But I think the craziest things in our lives just happen by accident. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about just going with your accidents and really being flexible in that regard. So, why I talk about accidents is that I said, yes, I am an author. So, my book, Purrrfectly Persuasive Marketing to Both Humans and Cats in the Digital Age, is now available for order, and it comes out Labor Day weekend 2023. And in a million years, I would never thought that I would be writing a book. Um, it's always something that I envisioned other people doing, but I never thought that I myself would be doing it. And it's crazy just because when you put yourself in an environment with other people to really grow from and learn, you tend to see, okay, well, I can do it too. I can do it too. So when I was asked, hey, are you doing now what you thought you'd always be doing? The answer is absolutely not. Going back to childhood, I wanted to be a doctor, or I wanted to be a lawyer, or I don't know, maybe even be an astronaut. But even from the time where I started college to where I am now, it has all been a complete accident. I went to school for computer science. I always loved all things tech. And growing up in the 80s and 90s, we had always some sort of computer in the house or in my environment, starting with the Commodore 64, which was this big, massive, blocky computer that I would just dabble with. And I said, one day I'm going to code on this thing. I'm going to play some games. I'm going to make some games on this thing, and I'm going to create. And I've always used technology to create something. So in the late 90s, I started dabbling in web design. I taught myself HTML, JavaScript, CSS. I taught myself these skills because I was just always a curious child, and I love to create and solve puzzles. And even throughout my corporate life and some of the things I did up until then, I was always solving puzzles. I always solved puzzles in one way or another. But it wasn't until I actually did my own business that I realized that I was also capable of stepping out from behind the computer screen. So when I went into business, I started out as a web designer and I liked it. But I said, all right, there has to be something more to this, because the website is just the front end of your business. The systems behind it, the emails, everything else that goes behind it need to be in place in order to make that website effective. And how I accidentally became an email marketer actually goes back to 2006. So 2006, I was looking for my first job out of college, and I stumbled upon a job posting for someone who knew HTML, CSS, that could work on marketing materials. And it turns out that it was a big company that sends out emails for other large companies. And they needed someone who knew how to construct and code these emails. And I was able to do that. And I did that for a couple of years. And I also transitioned to being a developer, developing the databases that house the data for these emails. And then also project manager, business analyst, so that's how I accidentally got into it, by using the skills that I taught myself back when I was younger. So when I was doing websites, I said, why not use the skills that I've developed over the years because I know a thing or two about email and marketing. I know that it is still one of the highest returns on investments that you can get. So, for example, it is said, and I can probably put the quote somewhere, that for every dollar spent, you get $42 back. And you get $42 back, that is across kind of all industries, because everybody opens their emails every single day. And unlike social media, where only a fraction of your content gets seen by your followers, if you send out good quality, consistent emails to those who have opted in to hear from you, you are more likely to get their attention. And so that is something I feel very strongly about. So when I was doing the websites, I noticed that a lot of websites don't have a system behind it. It's really just contact me, it goes to the email, and that's it. So how I actually got into email marketing is through technology. So it all ties together because through the technology, I learned that, okay, well, it really doesn't stop there. I can build things, but just because you build things doesn't mean that people will actually show up. And so I've been in the email space, I guess you can say, for about 20 years. And it sounds crazy when it comes out of my mouth, but it wasn't something that I intentionally set out to do. I intentionally set out to be a computer science major. I either wanted to be a database administrator or I wanted to be a network administrator. But somehow it was the marketing piece of technology that really spoke to me. It was through the web design and it was through the coding by putting things in front of people that really excited me. It was the creativity that went behind it that really excited me. And I remember being in the 11th grade creating these things and showing it off. I don't know if anybody remembers GeoCities, and I think it was Angel Fire, some free like website platforms. You can just make your little flashy websites. I remember showing it off to my friends and they said, Kim, you should totally make this for people and you should totally do it. And at the time I was like, oh no, it's just a hobby. You know, I I do it for fun. I do it for leisure. But when I was looking for that first job, you know, tapping into the hobbies, you're like, okay, well, I got to get serious. I got to find something that I'm good at and something that I'm qualified for. And it was just actually the perfect fit. So all things just kind of came together perfectly. And I think that through the years, even though I was in one role behind the scenes, creating the emails, creating the content, making sure the emails looked correct, I also learned the strategy behind it. I also learned the time of day you should send an email. I learned like the frequency and cadence by which you should send an email, you know, how to personalize an email, how to send out dynamic content. What I mean by dynamic, I mean it is timely, depending on the person. It is very tailored to what they're looking for. And it is just very intuitive. And at the time, the technology was so primitive that we actually had to sit and code out the we had to sit and code out the back end of the email so that we can get it to display the way we want to. Now we have so many systems and so many email service providers that just do that for you, so you don't even have to have any coding. But at the time, I had to write the code to say, okay, well, I want this widget to show up. I want this person's name to show up. I only want this section of the email to show up if this customer fit into a certain segment. And I had to do that all manually. I had to test it. I had to test it with multivariables to make sure it looked correct. And then I also had to test it on various devices and platforms. And because this was the mid 2000s, we didn't really have the smartphones out yet. You know, I think iPhone came out a couple of years later. So what we had to do was make sure that it looked good on a mobile device, which at the time was all text-based. So we had to make a text-based version of that email. So it really got me thinking of the right platform, the right messaging, and the right cadence. And that is what I talk about in my book, Purrrfectly Persuasive, because when I talk about all of these things put together, it's not just, oh, it's just an email, oh, it's just a social media post, oh, it's just a live video. It's everything taken into aggregate. It's like, okay, where are you showing up? Who are you showing up to? What are you showing them? What are you promising? And then I top it off with the cherry on top is like, how do you automate all of this? So I say all that to say is that, I may have started off wanting to do one thing in life, and now I am using all the skills that I have cultivated in which I can now put that all together and speak and teach. And in a million years, I would not have seen myself speaking and teaching, even like 7 years ago, I wouldn't have seen this. But now there's nothing that makes me happier than giving people aha moments so that they can go out and they can shine and they can be their best selves. And they can say, all right, I understand these concepts. I get it. It's all good. So that is really what I'm about. That is how I became an accidental email marketer, and now I'm an accidental speaker as well. So again, my book, Perfectly Persuasive, it is out now, available for order. It will be launching Labor Day weekend 2023, and I can't wait for you to read it. It is packed full of just stories about me and about just how I use digital marketing and cat training as a way to parallel the two. I talk about it in a very relatable sense because we all have pets, we all have cats and dogs and maybe some birds or some fish. No matter what animal you have in your house, you have to persuade them to take an action. And humans aren't that much dissimilar. So that's why I wrote the book. I wrote the book to be kind of a funny little way of presenting these concepts to you. So again, my name is Kimberly Inez, and it has been a pleasure. See you later. Bye.